absolutely unbelievable. It's a tie game! Woo! Finally! Go Leafs, go! It's not baseball, but let's see a rally. Let's go Leafs!
Well, what a game this was. Kind of a one-sided affair. The Montreal Canadiens stomped the Toronto Maple Leafs by a score of 5-2. And I don't think many people were expecting that. Clarky, how are you doing tonight?
Not doing too good there, Varco. It's been a tough night for sure. Leafs, once again, just when we think they're getting it going, something goes wrong. What will go wrong always goes wrong in Leaf land. And we saw that tonight. We got a lot to talk to, but just want to say thanks for having me on, and let's see some great comments. Let's have a great show tonight.
Well, thank you for coming on here and doing a post-game show, especially under these circumstances. I'm sure you're not too happy right now, but it feels like just a less than a week ago we were talking about this team having one of their best performances, if not the best performance of their season, against the Pittsburgh Penguins in a 4-1 dominant game, and now they get dominated by an 11-win, formerly a 10-win team, now 11 wins, the Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah, like I'm reading some of these comments. That's why I'm partly laughing, and also I really just can't fathom how the Leafs perform against the bottom ranked Montreal Canadiens with a recent coaching change. So obviously we'll get into that, but that might be a catalyst for why they've been playing so good lately. But yeah, it's just the way the Leafs have been performing lately is unacceptable, and just certain things that took place tonight, you wouldn't expect that out of the team that we think will go far in the playoffs, because it's just not championship pedigree. And like I said, you think would go far, but they probably aren't if they're going to play like tonight.
Well, this is definitely a concern in my opinion. Going up against, I felt that this is a game that it had a lot of meaning behind it for the Toronto Maple Leafs. You remember last year, we all know what happened in that 7-game series. We all know it was 3-1, and then the Montreal Canadiens come back, defeat the Leafs in a 7-game series, and you'd expect that to carry over. The Maple Leafs should have been using that as fuel to their fire to really try to put their feet down and stomp on a team that's down, kick them while they're down at the bottom of the standings, but that wasn't the case tonight, and I think that's a concern that the Maple Leafs, in these situations, in games that, I mean, this is a game that the Maple Leafs probably should have won. It wasn't out there on the ice, but going up against the Montreal Canadiens, it's usually a mismatch, especially on paper.
Yeah, I agree totally. But at the same time, NHL matchups are never a given. And let's hope that the Leafs didn't think this was a given tonight, because clearly whatever happened pre-game, in the game, post-game, something's got to change. But let's get into some comments. Let's get some raw emotion from Leaf fans, because you said it. This is definitely reminding me of Game 7 last year in the playoffs, kind of. Obviously not to the same importance, but emotionally a bit.
Dylan here says they're too inconsistent. Yells, they're too inconsistent. Simple. And I mean, I think that's a fair statement. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, just last week we were talking about this team having their most complete performance of the season, and now they just got defeated by a team who now has 11 wins.
Yeah, Dylan put the nail on the head there.
Definitely not the performance that the Maple Leafs were looking for tonight.
Go to JB's comment. JB's comment. I think that sums it up too. That was brutal. Period. Like, that says it all.
It was honestly hard to watch when it was 5-0. I was like, is this game gonna continue to pour on? And then the Maple Leafs did their thing. They scored a couple of goals that were meaningless. Garbage time goals, basically the equivalent to a touchdown in a 41-0 game in football.
Yeah, I didn't think they were going to stage a comeback whatsoever. I mean, it was nice to see some of the guys that don't play as much get on the score sheet because that doesn't happen too often. But again, under those circumstances, couldn't care for those two Toronto goals. Didn't really matter. The game was over after the second period.
Yeah, it was done after the second period, no doubt about it. I mean, if the Maple Leafs magically did that, that would have been miraculous, but definitely not the case here tonight. We're going to talk about the three stars of the game, starting off with Josh Anderson, who always seems to light it up and take it to the next level against the Toronto Maple Leafs. He scored 2 goals and an assist in this game.
Yeah, Josh Anderson, guy's only got 11 goals on the season, gets two tonight. He's definitely hot against the Leafs, and he just has a way to score. And we saw it's funny because going back to last season, I think so much like we saw so much of Josh Anderson, Suzuki, all those great players on Montreal. They are great players. 10 times last season, so we haven't seen them a lot this season. But again, I think tonight was a reminder that even against teams that are struggling that have some decent players, the Leafs are going to lose. So I mean, Anderson definitely deserves number one tonight, but overall, it shouldn't have gone that way. It shouldn't have ended up with Anderson dominating.
And Anderson opened the scoring in this game as well. He had a nice play there. He pushed TJ Brody out of the way
Yeah,
in front of the Maple Leafs net,
he's a good
gets the
player.
puck back off the rebound, puts it in, cashes in for a goal, and really from there it was all Montreal Canadiens all night long. He had a nice assist as well, and ever since ever since he was traded to the Montreal Canadiens in games against the Toronto Maple Leafs, which he's played in 10 regular season games. Josh Anderson has registered 6 goals and 3 assists for 9 points in those 10 games against Toronto. So he's definitely been a factor every time they play.
Yeah, we can get to the second star, but just before we do, it's just the one thing that reminds me anytime I think of Josh Anderson is his physicality. He's just such a big guy, and he uses that body to his advantage on the ice. And like you said, that first goal pushed Brody out of the way, created an opportunity for himself.
Yeah, definitely, and a great play from Josh Anderson there. We've seen it. We've seen what he's capable of doing firsthand so many times. Second star of the game, a young gun, Cole Caulfield. He had a goal and 2 assists in this game, and you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and say this. In 6 games with Martin St. Louis as his head coach, he has scored 5 goals and 3 assists. We've seen Cole Caulfield. We saw him flash some signs of greatness last season in his rookie year, and now it's under Martin St. Louis. We've seen a small sample size, but we've seen him really contribute ever since St. Louis came in.
Yeah, it shows that just sometimes having the right coach, the right situation can really help a player. I think a lot of it probably was confidence and more mental part of the game because we know Caulfield is very skilled and a very dangerous player to go up against, and he showed that tonight with a nice goal and a few assists. And I agree with Hot Tuna, his comment here. He said, "Good for Caulfield." I agree. At the end of the day, whether he's on the Leafs or not, you want to see great talent in the NHL, and I do believe Caulfield is a great talent, and let's hope that he can continue his success, not against the Leafs, but just overall. He's a great young player, and he'll be in this league for many years to come.
Yeah, it's always a great story when you see an undersized player having success at the NHL level, and I feel as if uh, the addition of Martin St. Louis to the Montreal Canadiens coaching staff is definitely. I feel as if that's something that's going to help propel Cole Caulfield to the next level in the NHL. Having that, I mean, a legendary player who is an undersized player as your head coach, that's someone that I'm sure he looks up to and aspires to be like.
Potentially, yeah, potentially for sure.
And then the third star of the game, the Montreal Canadiens goaltender, Sam Montembeault. 35 saves on 37 shots. He looked fantastic out there.
Yeah, he was the better goaltender for sure, and he made some big saves against the Leafs. I think the Leafs didn't test him a lot of parts of the game, but there was a few good opportunities and he made some good saves. So yeah, I think he deserves to be the third star tonight for sure.
He came up big when his team needed him to. And I just want to share some. I got a notification here regarding Jake Muzzin's status. So I'm just going to share this.
Is this live? Is this
Yeah.
breaking news?
Yeah, I just got a notification for this tweet from John Liu. And Leafs coach Sheldon Keefe says Jake Muzzin will stay in Montreal for continued observation and testing. No further update. So that's the latest on Jake Muzzin.
Yeah, I mean, obviously precaution there, and it did look from my perspective that maybe potentially something with the head. I don't know though, so I guess it's the Leafs doing protocol, and if it is something with the head, obviously in professional sports, they got to be very careful. So we'll see what happens, but obviously, huge loss for the Leafs if he's out, and hopefully he's all right overall.
Yeah, definitely. Don't like to speculate, but it appeared that he hit his head off the ice. A scary scene anytime that happens. And just got to hope for the best for Jake Muzzin because he's someone that the Maple Leafs need healthy. We've seen this in the playoffs over the past 2 seasons. The Maple Leafs need him come playoff time.
Agreed, agreed.
Well, overall, I think that the Maple Leaf Stars needed to show up here tonight a little bit more. I think that they needed to do more. And we've seen the stat about Matthews and Marner. They've combined for just 1 goal in the past 10 games against the Montreal Canadiens, including last year's playoff series. Not what you want to see against a team that's your most bitter rival and a team that you're going to see 2 more times this season.
Yeah, I think there were some comments in here tonight about their performance, and I saw a few tweets. And I agree. I mean, it doesn't really matter how the overall team played. I think it also starts at the top and the leaders. And the fact of the matter is that the big top four, even Riley and Brody, top defensemen, just did not play good tonight, and they got outplayed. And I think there was a comment way up here saying basically said if you shut down the Leafs' top two forward lines, you're going to win the game. And that seems like it's been the case when they go up against Montreal, especially in the playoffs last year. So, yeah, Leafs got to find some way to fight through with some adversity and figure out a way to get done.
Yeah, that's exactly what the recipe for success in Montreal was last year in the first round of the playoffs. If you could shut down Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews, I mean, your chances significantly go up of beating the Leafs. And that's what happened again out there tonight. John Tavares, he has not been a factor out there as of late. Just 1 shot on goal in his past 4 games. And he really hasn't been making any major impact out there on the ice. He's had 3 assists in this time, but 1 shot on goal from John Tavares, you need more over a 4-game stretch.
Yeah, that's an alarming stat. I didn't even know that. That is not pretty. And I mean, he doesn't have to always be a goal scorer, but when you're playing on the number one power play unit, you're playing on the second line, you're getting 20 minutes a night. That's potentially 80 minutes of ice time with 1 shot. That's very low.
Yeah, 1 shot on goal in 4 games. The Maple Leafs need more from John Tavares if they're going to have any success down the line. I remember last season when he was absent from the lineup in the playoffs, the Maple Leafs we know what happened. We know what happened with their team. The rest of them failed to produce. And if John Tavares isn't helping get some shots on goal, it's a similar impact.
Yeah, and again, the captain, so leading by example. Obviously, last year he went down in the playoffs, so unable to really contribute. But I mean, there's a comment in here that he sucks. He doesn't suck. He's the captain for a reason. I think we both believe in him, but at certain times in the season and in the playoffs in past years, he has slumped. So let's just hope that he can keep together, and really going to need top production from our captain and assistant captains and all the big four for the Leafs, because 40%, 50% of the cap is in them. So they need to play good or else the Leafs are definitely done.
Yeah, they need more from them, no doubt about it. And we'll see how the Stars recover. I know they're gonna put up some nice statistics for the rest of the season. We know it's just one game in a regular game season, but it is a very alarming statistic that I just showed about John Tavares over the past 4 games. And it's a very alarming fact that the Maple Leafs went out there tonight and they just looked flat against their bitter rivals, an original six rival that they lost to in the playoffs. It's so alarming to me.
Yeah, I agree. It's it's a little bit of a predicament right now in Leafland. We're in a predicament.
Definitely. Frank Rusty Nails says Muzzin needs to go to on long-term injured reserve, heal his wounds, use his cap space to get a bona fide top four. And obviously, you want to hope for Jake Muzzin's health first. That's first and foremost.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing. If Jake Muzzin's able to get back out there on the ice, that's what we're gonna hopefully see happen. And if Jake Muzzin isn't available and he's eligible for the LTIR, obviously I'm not opposed to this move. Uh, Pulling a trick out of the old Tampa Bay Lightning book right there.
Well, you know what I'd say to, yeah, you're right. But what I'd say to that, a little bit of analogy here, rusty nails, usually over time a nail becomes rusty. You don't get the nail rusty. And that shows that Rusty Nails is coming with a lot of wisdom from over time. And I think that his comment, it might have a lot of weight to it. And it could be very interesting if the Leafs pursued that path because, right now it just seems that Muzzin's struggling to be healthy. No fault to his own. It's just been a series of bad luck, and maybe he's trying to fight through injury. And maybe it's a conversation Dubas needs to have with Keefe and the player, and basically say, "We want you to be healthy. You're a key part of this team, but right now it just doesn't look like it's going your way. So maybe if the Leafs do that, that can free up some space, and they can do a nice move right before trade deadline."
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious that the most important thing is Jake Muzzin's health, but if this were to happen where he's put on LTIR, it frees up some cap space, some significant cap space, and that would allow the Maple Leafs to make some more moves and hopefully improve their lineup for the playoffs. And come playoff time, if you could get Jake Muzzin back, that's just a bonus.
Yeah, I mean, we're already on this topic, so I think we should go there. T Dot, he or she just sent in a comment saying Dermott, Hall, and Lilligren are weak. They need big help on D. What are your
Yeah,
thoughts?
I mean, you know what? Travis Dermott's been in and out of the lineup. He hasn't been great this season, but it's been difficult for him to really get in a rhythm. Justin Hall has been atrocious. I'll say it flat out. He's been atrocious, and he's not deserving of any praise for his performance. That's for sure. Timothy Liljegren, young defenseman, but he joins up on the rush a lot, and he can definitely be a defensive liability. The Maple Leafs need more help in their defensive zone, and that's what they're hoping the addition of Ilya Lyubushkin will bring to the lineup. We'll see Lyubushkin make his debut reportedly tomorrow night against the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. An interesting addition, and I think you reported on this too that Dzingel, he went on waivers and was claimed by San Jose, right?
Yeah, Ryan Dzingel was claimed by the Sharks today.
Okay. Yeah, no, you know what? I agree with your comments. I mean, the one thing just top of mind that comes to me when I read those three players is experience. All three of these guys just have a lack of experience. I know Dermott's been on the team for a few years, but in terms of meaningful experience down the stretch in the playoffs, winning key games, none of these guys have it. And it's maybe no fault to their own, it's just how their careers panned out so far. They could get it on later in their career, but right now the Leafs need a guy that's going to come in, provide experience, championship pedigree, I think. And a guy like Bogosian, as slow as he was and as bad as he was at certain parts of the season last year, he also was pretty key in the playoffs. He played pretty good. So I think a guy like that can add a lot of experience to the Leafs blue line.
And you know what, Clarky? Since we're talking about it, you're talking about the championship pedigree of players who have a lot of playoff experience. Who is that championship pedigree player that the Maple Leafs have? They don't have one. Jason Spezza's had a ton of playoff experience, but he hasn't won a Stanley Cup. I mean, there's not really that much playoff experience on the Maple Leafs roster, especially when you compare to last year's roster. You had Zach Bogosian, you had Joe Thornton. He's played in a million playoff games.
Muzzin,
So
but that's
yeah,
it.
that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
So that's definitely an area that I would also try to look to address at the trade deadline. If you could get a defenseman with some more playoff experience, hard to come by, but if you could get that, that'd be ideal.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't really looked at the market and who's available and who's not right now, but I just think there's definitely got to be. And it doesn't. I'm not saying the player the Leafs go get needs to have won a cup, but maybe just a little bit more experience is what the Leafs need, especially if Muzzin's out. If Muzzin's out, the Leafs blue line is just too raw, too young, too inexperienced. Not even young because those guys like Hall's almost 30. I think Lilligren's like 27, 28. It's not even about youth. It's just I think it's NHL experience, hours on the blue line.
Yeah, it's experience and big game experience as well. Like that is something that's lacking, and the Maple Leafs, their decor is just a mess right now. That's the simplest way to put it. Their defensive core is a mess. TJ Brody, he didn't look great out there tonight. He's a pretty steady defenseman for the most part, though. Morgan Riley's been fantastic for a majority of this season. And then outside of that top pairing, it's really been a significant drop off in the Maple Leafs blue line.
Yeah, I'm just looking up Labushkin's stats right now. I'm kind of curious.
So Ilya Labushkin, he's not a goal scorer. He's not someone who's going to produce offensively
Yeah,
much, if at all. But
from the KHL.
no, Labushkin's from the Coyotes.
No, but I mean, did he come from the KHL? Because it looks like he did. Let me check. I'll check. I don't think he was drafted in the NHL.
So Labushkin, he's averaging over 2 hits per game this season, which I'm sure that a lot of Leafs fans will like. We've seen a lot about toughness being a problem in Leafs land, but it's an addition that I think will help the team definitely fill in on the bottom pairing and maybe even slot into the top four, the second pairing, with the absence of Jake Muzzin potentially.
Yeah, he looks like a. Yeah, so I think Hot Tuna said too he's undrafted. Looks like he's from the KHL. So he's had definitely some experience. Obviously, been in the league for a bit. Big guy, decently big, 6'2", 210.
That's a big guy.
Pretty big defenseman. So I mean, happy to see that add some size to the Leafs because I agree with you too that right now. I mean, tonight I don't know if anyone watching saw this as well, but especially towards the end of the second period, the Leafs got pushed around. So it's nice to see that Leafs added some size there.
Yeah, and they got pushed around significantly. The hits in this game were 38-26 in favor of the Montreal Canadiens. And I understand that the game's not all about how many hits you get, but come playoff time in a 7-game series, those hits they add up and they really go against your opponent.
Yep.
If you haven't already, please make sure you smash the like button and hit the notification bell to be notified every time new content's being released on Maple Leafs Media.
Yeah, there's some great comments coming in here too. I think there's a lot of Leaf fans that have opinions about the Toronto decor. We touched a sensitive topic there.
JB says, "Hey guys, do you think there's a poison in the locker room, meaning some guys not getting along? They looked effortless tonight." Clarky, you got a reaction to that? What do you have to say?
JB, come on, we can't speculate like that. Whether there is or not, we'll never know. Unless there's another Babcock debacle and we see the Leafs just completely implode and fire their coach, and there's all these stories that come out, we're never going to know. So it's really tough. But I mean, if you lose a game, you're down second period. I can only imagine I'd really want to be in that room just to see the emotional reactions down 5-0 at the end of the second period. That must have been a quiet room, a very quiet room.
It was either a quiet room or a really loud room with Sheldon Keefe giving it to them.
Right? Yeah, he likes to yell, I think.
But JB, that's just something that I'm not going to speculate about. Uh, there very well could be, but I'm not going to speculate about that. Uh,
He might be
I'm not.
right. I'm not
I'm
saying he's wrong, but or
Yeah.
we
Can't
don't
say you're
know.
right. Can't say you're wrong. I'm not in that locker room. I'm just on the outside looking in as well, and I can't make that assessment. But Hot
Interesting
Tuna,
comment though. Interesting comment.
Hot Tuna says the Leafs can't handle heavy hitting teams.
They eat more tuna, apparently.
Well, they seem to get outbodied, and we've seen that in the playoffs countless times. It all comes back to the playoffs with the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah, yeah, it really does. And all jokes aside, Hot Tuna is right that when it comes down to some heavy hitting, and I mean, one person they've added that I think's been good for absorbing some of the hits and causing some frustration is Bunting. But in terms of Leafs dishing out hits, and like you said, hits aren't everything. So a lot of times when you don't have the puck, you're actually hitting more. But the Leafs just look like they're getting pushed around in parts of the game. So I agree. They need more size somehow, and they don't play. Keefe doesn't play his hitting line that much. Like he doesn't play Simmons more than 10 minutes a night usually. So they have limited impacts on the game.
But again, the thing that's concerning to me isn't about getting pushed around, really. That's not what's concerning me about this game. What's concerning me is about the lack of a response that this team had. They were down 5-0 after 2 periods to a team that now has 11 wins. And that's just, that's not something that's easy to wrap your head around. This is a game that should have the Maple Leafs should have been motivated coming into this one. And that's the biggest concern. And my biggest takeaway from this game is the fact that the Leafs looked flat out there for the first 40 minutes. They got a little something going in the third period, but too little too late. The game was over.
Well, it's difficult if we want to talk about the specific game here. I know a lot of these comments are in general, but if we're talking about this specific game, the Leafs defense was an absolute joke. Like, how many times did you see in this game them making drop passes to no one?
Yeah.
I think I counted at least 3 or 4. And then how many times did you see them like basic breakout, turning the puck over, not clearing it out, and nothing. The Leafs defense was horrible tonight. I'm sure the forwards didn't help out. They didn't. And Mrazek looked like a fish out of water. The team overall just was a cluster. So there's not much positive to say about tonight. Like if we're just focusing on the night, it was an ugly game to watch, a very ugly game to watch.
And
I almost turned it off, to be honest. I almost
and,
turned it off.
and you made another interesting point that we haven't really touched on in this game or in the show. Peter Mrazek looked really out of position on one of those goals in this game. That was a really bad goal.
Oh,
That should not have gone in. That should be a save 9.9 times out of 10 for an NHL goaltender. But I guess it happens. It's just something that he's got to have that.
in his defense, I thought he got left out to dry because I do think that a lot of the poor defense for the Leafs resulted in great scoring chances for Montreal. So I think he got left out to dry. But at the same time, and Andrew's got another topic we can go into about tonight with Spezza, but Mrazek didn't look comfortable in the net tonight. He just did not look comfortable in the crease.
Yeah, he didn't look comfortable out there, and great point because he was hung out to dry all night long. The breakouts, as you mentioned earlier, they've been horrific for quite some time now. I have I have so many visions in my head of Justin Hall just flipping the puck and
Oh,
not even just banking off the boards. That's what you learn from Pee Wee hockey. Like
yeah. I
banking
mean,
off the boards.
I'm definitely no NHL player, but I know some of the basics and like I think the Leafs weren't doing. And you saw Keefe; he was freaking out on the bench at parts of the game because you expect more from the Toronto Maple Leafs, but you saw Keefe at certain points of the game just livid with his defense because it was some just basic drills, basic planning. One guy in front of the net, one guy in the boards, and they just weren't doing it.
Yeah, and I really, uh, I feel comfortable saying that with this decor as is, the Maple Leafs aren't going far in the playoffs.
No, and that's why the more I think about, I think it was JB's comment where you put Muzzin on long term and then you go and try to make a deal. You have $4 million cap room. That is an interesting comment because right now, if Muzzin's going to be in and out of the lineup and the Leafs have this bottom four with Sandin, uh, uh,
Yeah, I mean, you'd rather have quality over quantity, right? I mean, there's a lot of players that can fill in to the Maple Leafs decor right now, but there's really not. There's more quantity than there is quality right now.
yeah, and I think we should get to this comment too. Well, there's a lot of great comments in here. I mean, all negative, so it's easy to be negative tonight. But if we're just talking about tonight's game, there's not a lot to be positive about. The Leaf season overall, that's a different story. But tonight's game, there's not much to be positive about tonight's game.
Yeah, there's not. And in the middle of the game, there's actually a trade. I see Henry's comment here. So I see the Leafs got Carter Hutton today. What are your thoughts on that? So for anyone that missed it, I'll just share the tweet from the Maple Leafs Twitter account on the screen here.
They picked him off for future considerations, was it?
Yeah, so the Maple Leafs acquired Carter Hutton from the Arizona Coyotes in exchange for future considerations.
Mm.
Hutton has played in just 3 games this season. He's got in those 3 games, his goals against average has been terrible. It's over 7. But I mean, this is a move where the Maple Leafs are just adding insurance, if anything. And I saw a tweet
Yeah,
earlier about maybe this could lead to more moves, more things coming. But as of right now, until we get more context and more potential movement, as of right now, this is just an insurance move.
yeah.
It could be in the long run. It could be something that adds up to more trades. But right now, it's just an acquisition, a minor league goaltender, and I don't see Hutton making any impact on the Maple Leafs this season. You have Joseph Waz, your third goaltender. Then you have Michael Hutchinson, who's been in and out of this Maple Leafs organization for the past 4 years now. So I think that the Maple Leafs' third goaltending situation is pretty set unless they get a significant upgrade.
Yeah, they have some more depth, and the funny thing I think about when I think about the Leafs' depth is the guy they're paying the most was playing tonight. That's kind of an issue with that
Yeah.
performance. But Frank Rusty Nails, thanks for bringing that up. I knew like the general deal, but I didn't know those details. But Frank Rusty Nails has a good comment here. He says, "Here's a question for everyone: Hutch making 750K or Mrazek making 3.8 mil? Dot dot dot. Similar goaltending."
I don't think it's that similar, Frank. Uh, I'd like to see a statistic where it is similar because I just feel Peter Mrazek's a much better goaltender than Michael Hutchinson. I don't think it's really close. Um, Not anything against Michael Hutchinson, but Peter Mrazek's a better at these 2 goaltenders. He's just been plagued by injuries throughout the past few seasons. Not He hasn't had a great performance with the Maple Leafs yet. We're still waiting on that, but I don't think that these two are really comparable.
I'd say if Frank Rusty Nails is basing it off tonight's performance, he has a point. But if we're going over history, Mrazek has proven himself as a bubble starting NHL goaltender, I think, the past few years. But obviously, main question mark for him is health. And right now, with injuries and whatnot, he definitely isn't playing himself. But tonight, definitely highlighted that maybe he needs to get more practice in or something because positioning and everything just didn't look comfortable tonight.
Yeah, and just to kind of tack on to that, what I was saying about not really being comparable. Uh, this season with the Toronto Marlies in the AHL, Michael Hutchinson has a goals against average over 3, and his save percentage is under 900 at the AHL level. So I really don't think it's comparable. And
Yeah, yeah.
another point there is, would you rather have Michael Hutchinson as your backup goaltender, and then if he goes down, your next guy is Joseph Wall, who's 24 years old?
They should bring in that U of T goalie. He was good on the bench. He might be a good backup. You never know. Like give the kid a chance.
Well, JB's comment says, "Is Robertson's broken leg healed yet?" Yeah, Nick Robertson was out there tonight, playing earlier today, playing against the Laval Rocket for the Toronto Marlies. Interestingly enough, the score in that game between the Toronto affiliate and the Montreal affiliate was also 5-2, but was in favor of Toronto.
Yeah, JB brings up an interesting point again, and I'm not trying to, and I'm going to take a bit of a contrarian view here. I'm not trying to shut down Robertson. I think he's a great player, but is that the type of player that the Leafs he would have fixed the game tonight? I'm not so sure about that. Just the way the Leafs are playing right now, and I actually think some of the bubble players that would be kicked out for Robertson are playing pretty decent. I think McKayev's come back into his own. Engvall's been killer on the penalty kill. Um, and again, like those fourth line, they don't play at all to begin with. So I don't know how much opportunity he'd have and if it'd be helpful for his growth if he's playing 10 minutes a game on the fourth line.
Yeah, I don't think that adding Nick Robertson into this lineup really bolsters it at this point in time. Maybe next season, but right now it just
Yes.
doesn't
Yeah.
fit in. It doesn't fit in right now, and he's been away from the team all season long. Let him continue his development with the AHL Toronto Marlies. Don't rush him into the NHL level. He's likely gonna take more hits up there if he's playing in the playoffs. So keep him in the minors. There's no need to rush um, Nick Robertson right now.
Agreed. If you haven't already, smash that like button too. I know you appreciate it, and we appreciate everyone's comments in here. And it's a great show, even though it was a horrible game.
Yeah, thank you, Clarky. If you haven't already, please smash that like button and hit the notification bell if you're new to the channel. I appreciate it, and I'll be back here tomorrow night after the Columbus Blue Jackets Toronto Maple Leafs game. Interesting how the NHL scheduled this. You have Montreal and then Columbus, the last two teams that the Maple Leafs have been eliminated by in back-to-back games.
Yeah, I think the NHL is kind of sending a message that Leafs are gonna get, I don't know, destroyed both games, but hopefully not.
We'll see.
But
Do you have how are you feeling about tomorrow's game?
well, Campbell's probably gonna play, but I don't think that fixes the defense. In terms of the defense, I don't know who he's gonna play. Sandin's probably gonna be back in the lineup. I think if he's not injured or anything like that.
No. And Labushkin should be making his debut tomorrow night, reportedly.
I'm gonna say the Leafs win. Actually, I think the Leafs are gonna bounce back tomorrow night. I think that with such a glaring loss like they had tonight, I think there's going to be some players playing with a little bit of fire under them, and Leafs are going to win. I don't think it's going to be a clean win. I see 5-4, 5-3 Leafs.
You'd definitely hope that they have a fire lit under them after tonight. You'd certainly hope to see that tomorrow night, and we'll see. I could see that scenario playing out to a higher scoring type of game. I'll agree with you on that.
We got JB says hat trick for Lane. I don't know about that. I have him on fantasy, so hopefully.
Line A against Matthews, the classic NHL redraft. It's always going to be Austin Matthews, though, first overall. Miles Tech, would you take Zach Bogosian back? Absolutely. I would love to have Zach Bogosian back. in a Toronto Maple Leafs uniform. He was such a valuable asset for this team and really an underrated player with the Maple Leafs last season.
Yeah, I think at times, I mean, I'd seen some criticism being that he's kind of getting slower and whatnot. Obviously, nothing compared to Thornton, but there's some criticism towards Bogosian, and I think just overall, there's trade-offs to bringing an older guy to the team, just in terms of being in shape and athleticism. But his mind is so valuable. I think that's something the Leafs are missing on the blue line right now. And again, going back to what they have in the bottom four as well as the scratch position right now, it's just they're not going to, like you said, they're not going to go far with that defensive core.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. So I would definitely bring back Zach Bogosian if he was available, but I don't think he is. Doesn't make sense for him to be available in Tampa Bay. They're going to probably go on a Stanley Cup run again. At least try to.
Yeah, trade deadline's late this year. Very late.
I believe it's March 21st.
Yeah, March 21st. I thought it was actually going to pass soon, but March 21st is Monday, March 21st. And the first headlines I see is Fleury, Giroux, and Kessel.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about Claude Giroux. A lot. I've been hearing a lot about Claude Giroux.
That'll be a big piece if he is moved.
Definitely. Chris says 3-2 overtime. I'm not sure who he's taking, but I guess it's the Leafs. Andrew says, Jake, what is your score tomorrow? I'm going to take 4-3 Maple Leafs. 4-3 Leafs in a tight, kind of messy game, as you said, Clarky. I feel like it's going to be a bit more high scoring than what you'd like to see.
Yeah, I thought even if Campbell was in net tonight, I think the Leafs would have still let in at least 2-3 goals. It was just Mrazek was not great, and there's a couple goals that I think were his fault, but just the way the Leafs defense is playing, and right now I don't know if you can correct that overnight. I don't see the Leafs letting in less than 2 or 3 goals at this point, unless Campbell just absolutely stands on his head.
Yeah, definitely. I think it likely would have been the same outcome tonight. The team hung out Peter Mrazek to dry. He didn't have a great game. He let a few goals in that should not have gotten past him, but overall, I don't think it would have made a difference.
Yeah, not with no.
And the goals scored tonight by Pierre Engvall, Ilya Mikheyev, that's great, but that's not who you'd expect to score and produce for the Maple Leafs up front. Need to see more from Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, William Nylander, John Tavares. You need more from them in the big games against. I know I'm saying it's a big game, and I'm saying it's a big game because it's against a rival team who you just lost to in the playoffs last year. So you need more from them in these games.
Agreed. And I think one of the stories, at least I thought, I don't know about everyone else, was Nylander getting back to maybe scoring again because he's traditionally this season been a pretty streaky player. So with 2 goals against St. Louis, it was a given that he could have scored tonight. But whether it was Nylander, whether it was Tavares, whether it was Marner, Matthews, Kerfoot, did Kerfoot play tonight?
He was out there.
I don't even remember seeing Kerfoot touch the puck, to be honest with you. So,
not a great night.
No, it was really bad. I actually don't remember Kerfoot touching the puck. I'm not kidding when I say that. It was, yeah. Again, I almost turned it off if we're just talking about tonight, but overall, hopefully the Leafs tomorrow night, they bounce back. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Tomorrow night they face off against the Columbus Blue Jackets in Columbus, a team that they lost to in the preliminary series just 2 seasons ago in the NHL bubble. So they'll look to get some vengeance back in their first meeting since then. And I'll be back here tomorrow night for a post-game show. Clarky, thank you for joining me tonight. Everyone, thank you for watching this video. Clarky, what are your closing words for Maple Leafs Media?
Thanks for having me on. As always, it's a pleasure. I really enjoyed all the comments here tonight, even though it was a tough loss. It's nice to just come back on here and debrief after the game. It's always a great time. I read every comment, so Appreciate everyone's comments. And overall, go Leafs go. Hopefully they can get their stuff together. And we can be happy Leaf fans tomorrow night. But never know with this team. But till then, go Leafs go, and I'll see you all later.
Thanks, Clarky.